tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands. Miracle Brokers is back. That's right. We're fully reopened and back to work. Our agents are here to serve you with all of your packing and shipping needs. Need to move? Don't worry. Give us a call today. Collect a package, shipping around the world, or straight to Cayman? You got it. Give us a call on 949-5989. Collection by personalized appointment only, where our dedicated agents are on standby to personally assist you. Don't forget to wear your mask, maintain social distancing, and one person per appointment. Check us out at miraclebrokers.com today.
All right, folks, good morning, and welcome to another segment of the Cold Hard Truth. I hope you guys are doing well. As you can see, I am standing this morning. You guys know sometimes I occasionally do the show sitting down. My sinuses are a little bit irritated. I don't know if it's a Sahara dust plume part 2, but thank you all so much for tuning in. I need to be standing up this morning because I got to tell you the truth. There are few things that annoy me more than an individual who is a All right, folks, I think I'm live now. Thank you so much. My receiver was turned off. Got my little wireless mic here. Let's start over, folks. Good morning. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I was just saying that my sinuses are a little bit irritated this morning. And I think you've got sound now. So if you don't, just refresh your stream. And I'm actually going to pull it up here on the other screen because sometimes that's useful when I am reading your comments, right? Give me 1 second here, folks. So I was just talking about the topic of liars and how much I personally despise liars. Okay, there we go. All right, yeah. All right, folks, I think my receiver is actually cutting out. So I've plugged that in. That's the issue with these wireless things. So can I just confirm that you can hear me? Hold on one second. Okay, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Mic check. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're back. My apologies. Technology. Can I just confirm that you can hear me? Okay, all right, so we're good with audio, right? Okay, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Alden must have had his little Obi, a woman trying to work something on the show this morning, but we're not worried about that because it ain't gonna work. Let's get on it, folks. Listen, I was discussing liars. So I personally despise liars. I don't know about you guys, but for me, the vast majority of times, it's absolutely unnecessary for people to lie. People lie for all sorts of reasons, and oftentimes a lie is a self-serving situation. So they lie because they know the truth isn't going to make them look particularly good. Yesterday, the premier had an opportunity to have a very frank discussion in the Legislative Assembly when a topic was brought up by Kenneth Bryan. Instead of just saying, here's what it is, the premier decides that he's going to coach his story in a well-dressed lie, as we say. Now, when we think of liars, there are two general professions that pop into our heads on a regular basis. One being lawyers and one being politicians. Is it ironic then that the premier has been both, and that's all he's done professionally in his entire life? He was a lawyer first, and now he's a politician. And I'm going to sit here today and tell you why, in my opinion, he is also a bold-faced liar. Now, in the world of politics, we expect a certain degree of fibbing, if you will. But let's not even sugarcoat it. These guys are straight out liars a lot of the times. We see people like the President of the United States, he lies on a regular basis, like every single day. This dude is saying something that he knows isn't true. He understands isn't true. His advisors have told him it isn't true. And he just isn't concerned. He is still going to lie. Is Alden McLaughlin any better or any different from the President of the United States? Well, he does seem to have an issue with telling the truth. And the name of this show is The Cold Hard Truth. So we are going to take the premier to task this morning with what the truth is. Because listen, we are, like the Cold Hard Truth song says, we are going to set the record straight. When someone decides to lie on me, I suggest they have their facts in order. Okay? Because I'm a person that believes in keeping my documentation. And I am disappointed that Alden has the time of day and the energy to even focus on me or any media house with his dishonesty. But you know, last night when I was reflecting on the situation and I started to write the article that I was going to do on this portion of the Legislative Assembly proceedings, it occurred to me that this isn't new for Alden, right? Somebody doesn't just wake up today and become a dishonest politician. This is something where they have been honing their skills for a very long time. Before I forget, good morning, Scott. Good morning, Corrine, Sharon, Anna. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Krista, Debbie, Trisha, of course, Jake is here for it. Lisa, Dion. Who else have we got here? Lord Jenbu is joining us from YouTube. Kenneth Bryan, Tamikia. I think I got most of you. Charlene. Am I missing anybody? Jonathan, we appreciate you tuning in. Daisy. Vanessa, a lot of you are here for this conversation this morning. Edlin, thank you so much for tuning in. Tamara is tuning from Fort Lauderdale. Rosanna, thank you, baby, for tuning in. So today we are talking about liars, and liars that can put on a nice suit and tie and stand up in the legislative assembly of this country where they know they have complete immunity from anything they say. And they're going to come after little people like little old me. And we are going to examine the history of why that is. What's the beef, Alden? We inquiring minds want to know. And if you're underage this morning, you know this ain't going to be a conversation for you because I'm probably about to drop a couple words, couple proper descriptive words this morning. Okay, let us look at, hi Gina, let us look at the situation with the premier. This man hasn't been entirely honest his entire career, I would say. And let's back it up to his relationship with the media. It goes way back, and I've just put the article there that we wrote last night. If you've missed it, please go back, have a read of it, because here is what you need to know. The Honorable Alden McLaughlin, and I use that term in the most loose way I possibly can, because you cannot be said to be honorable and a liar at the same time. In fact, those two descriptive terms simply do not go hand in hand. If you're an honorable person, you should be a person of your word. You should be a person that when you say X, it shouldn't be Y. So if there was a way to strip him of that honorable title, I am of the viewpoint that after what I witnessed yesterday in the Legislative Assembly, it should be done. Let's break it down, folks. Why? Well, I'll tell you what's going on here. For a very long time, the premier has had an issue with the media. And it's not exclusive to Cayman Mall Road. So I'm not even of the opinion or thinking that I am particularly that special, to be honest. Let's backtrack. A lot of you may not remember Cayman News Service. That was Desmond Seal's newspaper. And Cayman News Service was ran by Desmond back in the day. Desmond was a lot like me in the sense that he did it his way. No one was going to tell him how to run his operation, how to run his newspaper, the things to print or the things to say. And at the end of the day, I want you to keep in the back of your minds that this is an issue of control. Everything I'm going to tell you, whether it is about the DPP's office, Alden McLaughlin, other politicians, why they dislike certain elements of the media, it's because they cannot control them. And that lack of being able to control the media means that the media will say and do things that you do not like. The media will put you to task as they rightfully should. And because of that, when you are living a convenient lie, such as the premier, you don't like people staring down on you with a magnifying glass. Because when people do that, they will expose, either in part or in full, the shenanigans that you are up to on a regular basis. That's the motive here. Don't shine the light on me. And unfortunately for Alden, the premise of this platform here at Cayman Mall Road is one of truth. And not only is it one of truth, but it is one of the cold hard truth, the unfiltered truth. We're not here to make you guys feel good. We're here to tell it like it is. And of course, this is my opinion, and you can like it or lump it. But we are here to tell it as it is. So when we put out a story, we get a press statement from the police. Oh, so and so got ran over last night. If you have any information, call us. That's all the police are going to tell you. Oh, Cayman Mall Road has photos, videos. We have eyewitnesses at the scene who can actually demonstrate and show that the person who got ran over was beating up the other driver's girlfriend beforehand. That is the cold, hard, unfiltered truth. Include all that we know. And whenever we write a story and we don't put information in there, it's because we don't know. It's not that we're not trying to dig it and we're not trying to get it. Let me give you an example of that. A couple weeks ago, we had this woman, as we started to get open from COVID, claim that she's falling over a wall. And in her falling over the wall, people video recorded what happened. So of course, we started doing our digging right away. Who is this woman? What's going on? What's the true story? What did eyewitnesses see? People contact us. Here's the footage. But there's more to it than just the footage. Sorry. We want to know the backdrop of exactly what happened. And we dug and we dug and we dug. We found out who she was. To this day, we can't find out who her male partner was. Not for lack of trying here, folks. We have no favorites in this game. This is media, right? We don't care who you are, who your mama is, who your dad is alleged to be, who you're for. None of that matters to us. If we're going to report on you, we are going to report on you. Some people take it personal. They don't understand. The news, you have a responsibility to report regardless of who you are reporting about. Politicians are no exceptions. There are politicians in the Legislative Assembly that I like on a personal level. I like them politically. And if they jumped up tomorrow and did some shit that was newsworthy, beat their wives, plummet somebody in the streets, go beat up the barmaid, I don't care. It would be reported. My like or dislike of you has nothing to do with my ability to tell the story and to tell the cold, hard truth. Let me give you another example. Ralston, England, I think it was a couple months ago before the lockdown, Ralston was involved in a DUI. Well, let me back up. My apologies. Ralston was involved in an incident that a lot of people suspect was some sort of a DUI. We reached out to Ralston. Ralston, my friend, I got this story. Now, I actually like Ralston. He is a very likable guy. If you have ever sat down and had a conversation with Ralston, you can see why in certain circles with the ladies, he's a very popular guy. He's charismatic. Ralston is easy on the eyes. You enjoy talking with him if you're into politics. He has some very interesting political viewpoints. Hardworking guy. I ain't got no beef with Ralston. Ralston's a Caymanian, young professional guy, has a family, cool guy. Because I think Ralston's a cool guy, or I like him, I'm not going to report on him. Not at all. I'm like, Ralston, the story came to us. Not only did it come to us, but people are questioning, we know you got this story. What is the deal? So we approach him and say, you tell us, what's your version of the story? We're happy to include it in the article. Because all we know is that you ran into a light pole. And this isn't your first run into something while it's behind the wheel of a car. So it's beginning to look like a habitual situation. Ralston gave us an explanation, said he had concocted some homemade remedy, and he feels like that impacted some medication he was on. Whatever. The story was ran. So maybe I'm thinking in the back of my head, is it possible that Alden McLaughlin actually believes that CMR has some issue with him because we have taken him to task on more than one occasion? Do you guys remember some months back, we had to go a little hard on Alden one show in the evening. It was either Tuesday or Thursday evening, because Alden issued a statement through his press secretary or whatever she is, claiming that we are liars. And here we are again today, having to show that in fact the real liar is Alden McLaughlin. In that instance, as you will recall, it was about whether or not we had been blacklisted. So we put up a story that we had been blacklisted and that the premier claimed that he didn't know anything about the fact that we were on a blacklist. Okay, so he twisted the facts a little bit. Oh, that's not really what I said. And Cayman Road has it wrong and blah, blah, blah. And they're misinformed. Fake news. They love this term fake news. They're the biggest liars in the fucking world, but they love the term fake news, trying to discredit other people and throw people under the bus. Listen to me. Good morning, Ruth, Charlene, Ann, Mitzi. Thank you guys so much. Jonathan, Louie, Larry, all the way from New York, Marshall. I get particularly offended when someone wants to call me a liar, because I'm the type of person that if I am wrong, then I am wrong. I'm not sitting here claiming to be perfect in any measure at all. I'm a human being. And there are times that I screw up just like anybody else. In my personal life, in my professional life, even right here on Cayman Road. We had a big screw up the other day when we said this poor little old lady had died and she hadn't died. Our reliable sources gave us some real shitty information that day and got somebody else who was dead ID confused with this woman. That was an epic F up. Trust me when I tell you. And we can't undo it. All we can do is apologize for it. But I will always try to hold myself accountable to the truth. And I can tell you one thing, I'll be damned if I'm going to hold myself accountable to one standard and I'm going to let Alden McLaughlin, the Minister of Health, Dwayne Seymour, or anybody else, especially an elected official who's actually working for us, the people, get a slide on being dishonest. All right. So maybe you didn't watch the LA proceedings yesterday. So we're going to show you those proceedings. I'm going to show you the questions that were put to Alden McLaughlin and what his responses are. And then I'm going to prove to you why it is my opinion that Alden McLaughlin is a bold-faced liar with a capital I, capital A, capital I, capital A, and capital R. Why do I think this man is a liar? Because I can prove unequivocally that he is a liar. Okay? Back it up. Back in 2015, you guys remember David Legge. Listen, not many of us like David Legge. I'm not defending the man, but I will defend his right to have an opinion and his right to speak his truth. So in 2015, the Cayman Islands was in the spotlight with the FIFA scandal. We had Jeff Webb that was arrested, tons of other people. were arrested, and I think it was Switzerland. They were there for some football conference or something that they were doing. The federal government swooped in, arrested all the thieves and liars. Well, a lot of them. That was the first batch of arrests. Boy, did that make us look bad. So David Legge, he was the editor-in-chief and part owner of the Compass. He swoops in and starts talking about the FIFA scandal. And then he did this editorial where he really put the government to task, saying, how come we don't hear the government saying anything about this? Now, you guys know in the past that this is nothing new with the government. They pick and choose the topics that they want to be of national importance, the topics that they want to give an opinion on, right? So when it's beneficial to them, they're going to speak up. They're going to have something to say. When it's something like a FIFA scandal that makes us look like shit and has a lot of questions, we talked about this last week, about Fidelity's involvement in the FIFA scandal. One of our banks could have potentially been turning a blind eye to money laundering through its institution by Jeff Webb just because of his connections to the bank, his political connections, and his connections with the government and FIFA. He was well connected, folks. So David Legge went hard. Did I agree with everything David Legge had to say? Hardly. Straight up, David Legge is an asshole, in my opinion. There's no other way to name the man. He's most likely a racist. We've attempted to have conversations with him about why Caymanians are so incredibly disenfranchised in this island. And the responses that I received from him and his lack of awareness of what was going on in this country is the typical, oh, I'm living in the Cayman Islands. I'm up here living a privileged life, and I see and hear nothing else. I'm blind, I am deaf, and I'm mute when it comes to the real social issues in this country. So he does present a certain viewpoint. His editorials were always slanted with a taint of being anti-Caymanian. Even his decision to change the name of the Compass from the Caymanian Compass to the Cayman Compass reeked of, you don't really like Caymanians, do you? And most Caymanians feel that way about David Legge. So I'm just being honest. I don't know the man personally. I've never even shared a glass of water with him. But that is the general consensus. That is the general opinion amongst the Caymanian population in this country. So when the government decided to finally take a position, their position was to attack David Legge. And I'm only saying this because Alden seems to have certain moments. Like Alden needs to have his own podcast so that when he gets upset, he can do what I do. Come on here and bitch about it, get it out, and keep it moving. But he does that sometimes in the Legislative Assembly. So we're paying him for that honor. So Alden gets all upset. He says the man has committed treason. Am I making this stuff up? What do you think? All you have to do is go back to the articles that were written at the time. And trust me when I tell you, the media coverage on this was shocking, to say the least. So shocking that when I started to do a little back research last night for the story that I was writing, I was actually surprised at how many media houses around the world picked up on this story about David Legge, claiming that he had to flee the Cayman Islands for his life. And they had headlines like freedom of speech is under attack in the Cayman Islands. The fallout of FIFA, has editor-in-chief running for his life. Now, we all know that David Legge is a dramatic little queen, and I don't mean to insult the LGBT community by calling him a queen, because that's not the kind of queen I'm talking about here. He's a drama queen. I'm just going to use that general term to describe the stunt that he pulled. Jumping in a plane, running from the Cayman Islands. Give me 1 second here, folks. My allergies are getting the best of me. I'm going to take a quick commercial break just to clear my sinuses. I'm going to be right back. So I want us to really break this down here this morning. So give me a second. Big shout out to Miracle Brokers. Thank you so much for your continued support.
Miracle Brokers is back. That's right. We're fully reopened and back to work. Our agents are here to serve you with all of your packing and shipping needs. Need to move? Don't worry. Give us a call today. Collect a package, shipping around the world, or straight to Cayman? You got it. Give us a call on 949-5989. Collection by personalized appointment only, where our dedicated agents are on standby to personally assist you. Don't forget to wear your mask, maintain social distancing, and one person per appointment. Check us out at miraclebrokers.com today.
All right, folks. Sorry about that. Welcome back. Got my little rubbing alcohol here. So when I was looking back on this situation last night, I was in awe, actually, of the number of publications that carried this single story. Because, a lot of times we'll research stuff and we'll look stuff up. What are people saying about the Cayman Islands? What are they talking about? Oh, my God. Go Google it for yourself, folks. I'm not making this shit up. The Washington Post, and this shows you how well connected Davey Legge was in terms of his resources to get a story out there. The Washington Post carried it, and they said at the time, back in 2015, just ask David and Vicky Legge, publishers of the Cayman Islands' only daily newspaper, who said that they had to leave Grand Cayman and seek refuge in Florida after an editorial in response to the FIFA scandal caught the ire of Premier Alden McLaughlin. It goes on to say, he put a target on my back. To my mind, David Legge says in a phone call from Florida, and my wife's as well. The Guardian also reported on it. And they were talking about press freedom scandal brewing in the Cayman Islands. Press freedom. The same things that we are fighting for here in 2020, some 5 years later. And they went on to say, David Legge, editor-in-chief of the Cayman Islands, of the Cayman Compass, and co-owner of the paper with his wife, Vicky, says that he had to flee because the Prime Minister, which we know that's not the correct word, but that's what they called him, the Prime Minister, Alden McLaughlin, in quotations, put a target on my back. It was in the Arkansas Online. Who the hell is reading the Arkansas Online? People in Arkansas. And this is how far and wide this story reached. It was in the New York Times. It was in the BVI Beacon. It was even in Ford's magazine at the time. That is a small collection. If you go and search David Legge's name, you will see that this article made it around the globe. So at the time, Alden McLaughlin, in all fairness to him, because I want to be honest here, and the rest of the Legislative Assembly, I think the motion was actually brought by Arden McLean, decided to pull advertising from the Compass. Now, government, in my opinion, is the Compass's biggest advertiser. Between advertising all the jobs, the civil servant jobs, all of the notices for departments, liquor license board meetings, this board meeting, all of the events coming up, government-sponsored events, all the quasi-political ads. So when they were going hard against CPR Group, what's his name, Johan Moxham, and all those guys, Miss Shirley, and that whole team, they were using our money, the people's money, to advertise in the Compass and other media houses of their choice to get their message across. So the Compass gets a lot of advertising revenue for about, I don't know the exact time frame, but it's about 6 months or so. advertising was pulled from the Compass back in 2015 because of something David Legge said that offended the premier and others. Now, you want to know the irony of that situation? Is the chamber, of course, they're going to come to the defense of the Compass. You know how the big boys roll together, right? They stepped up because it wasn't about freedom of speech. It's about, oh, we're going to protect the Compass. We're going to protect one of our own. They stepped up and expressed their opinions on it and how the premier had been wrong for taking this stance. He referred to the fact that the man had been treasonous. He said it must be interpreted, so this editorial is what he said in the Legislative Assembly, must be interpreted as a treasonous attack on the Cayman Islands and all the people of Cayman. Now, you guys know the word treason. He wants to talk about fake news and different media houses utilizing inflammatory vocabulary and getting people enraged and blah, blah, blah. Do you guys know what the word treason means? Do you know that that is probably the only remaining offense that has a death sentence attached to it? So when you use that to describe a person, to describe the editor of the only daily newspaper on this island, that's a very serious allegation. But again, he sits in the Legislative Assembly with complete immunity, because the things that they say in the Legislative Assembly, they cannot be held accountable for, except by you, the people, when you get smart enough to start voting their asses out. You can't sue them. So Alden can stand up there all day and night and lie about CMR, lie about Sandy Hill, and I can't slap his ass with a lawsuit, because those are the protections they have, parliamentary protection in the Legislative Assembly. It's not the only newspaper he's had an issue with, as we can see in more recent times. So let me just complete that story. At some point, Alden backtracked about 6 months or so later, reinstated advertising with the Compass through some backdoor deal, from what we understand, that happened in the glass house. The governor at the time, it is alleged, had some play in broking that deal. The Compass got their advertising revenue back. Everything was okay. They kissed and made up. They probably had a few drinks. That's the good old boys network here, folks. That's how it works. So the motion that was brought before the Legislative Assembly and that was passed in order to pull advertising from the Compass back then has never, in fact, been undone or retracted. So it is my understanding that that motion stands. Now, isn't that amazing? But the Compass, for the past 5 years, after that incident, after the 6-month break, have been getting all sorts of government money, aka the people's money. All right. What else are we talking about here? Wendy Ledger. Recently, she's been in a little bit of hot water with the Compass. With the premier, with Alden. It seems like Alden has a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Wendy. And I think it's more hate than love. Because trust me, she does put them to task. And she does, in my opinion, a very good job of holding the government accountable. So again, I don't care if you like Wendy. I don't care if you want to sit down and say, oh, she's an expat, she's this, she's that. We can always find a reason to not like the people who are actually doing the best possible job to hold people accountable in this community. Wendy made the Minister of Health cry, apparently, after she allowed comments on her Cayman News Service website about his competency. He gets up in tears and starts crying and going on like a baby. Then when his wife was seen to allegedly be breaking curfew, and she's not going to be held accountable for that, talk about privilege. Wendy has according to him, the audacity to be that brave and stupid to ask him such a question. And we all know the confusing donkey parable that came out of that to this day, that none of us have a damn clue what he was talking about. Okay, let's keep it moving. Yesterday, Cayman Mall Road actually celebrated our 3rd anniversary. And I can tell you what, it has been an interesting 3 years. We're not supposed to be here, folks. The powers that be have done everything imaginable in their power to ensure that we wouldn't be here a year, much less 3 years. Lisa, you're going to have to go back and watch it, honey, but don't worry. Catch up now. Stay with us. So here we are, 3 years in, and let us have a look at how Cayman Mall Road got started. It was an idea born out of, and I've shared this story before, at the time I was freelancing and doing some work for Loop Cayman. Loop Cayman, to put it mildly, are a bunch of softy pants. They do cooker cutter stories. They will never do a story that's seen as anti-government. They will never do a story that puts a politician to task. Because they are owned by a corporate entity, aka Digicel, they have to tread lightly in what it is that they do. And it is what it is. I'm not trying to be like Loop. Loop isn't trying to be like me. The Compass has their niche. Cayman News Service has her niche. Everybody has their own thing. So there I was working for Loop on a freelance basis and thinking to myself, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing here. Because I submit a story and, oh no, we can't publish that. Oh my God, we might get sued. Oh, this is too controversial. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you even used for? Because you just want to reprint GIS stories, feel good stories. That's fine. And it has its space in news, but that's not all it is. How do you hold people accountable? How do you get the story behind the story out there? And they were just not willing to take that risk. So one afternoon I sat down, I said, you know what? As life would have it, Danica, who's now working for us, I was working for her at the time, and I sent her a message and said, Danica, I'm going to do my own thing. Consider this my notice. As of today, I'm going to do my own thing. I sat down, started searching online for a format that would allow me to do an online news publication, came up with the name Cayman Mall Road, and I just ran with it. Here we are 3 years later. Has it been an easy ride? Absolutely not. Have we defied the odds? Absolutely. No one thought that we would still be here at 3 years. And not only that we would still be here at 3 years, but we would have a following of over 42,000 people between Instagram and Facebook. I saw yesterday that we reached over 15,000 likes on our Facebook platform. So thank you guys so much for that. We really appreciate it. And in the past 3 years, we have caused some waves. Trust me, we haven't done it. We haven't come in like your little granny and been like, oh, we're going to just say hello, everyone. And, you know, this is the story. And we're not going to offend you today because we're going to be quite prim and proper. No, we came in like a bull in a friggin' china shop and disrupted the status quo. I get that. So I understand why someone like Alden wouldn't like us. Alden and I go way back. So even before CMR started, Alden didn't personally like me. So there's also that issue. We were once part of the same political party, folks. I would sit down at a table and play dominoes with Alden. I don't personally drink. He would have a couple of drinks. We'd hear the political talk. I opened and managed the first PPM office For those of you who may not know, these are the cold, hard facts, because you got to be able to put this stuff in context for it to make any sense. Because I know some of you have got to be thinking in your head, why would Alden lie? What's the end game here? What's going on? So I'm trying to give you as much of a full picture as possible so you can have all of the information to come to your own conclusions. Because I'm not telling you that you have to call Alden a liar or you have to believe that he's a liar. That is my belief. And I'm going to show you during the course of this program today why that is my belief. So yesterday we celebrated our 3rd year anniversary. When we first started out, we were registered overseas because we knew that in this country, the so-called freedom of protections, freedom of press simply do not exist. We are one of the most oppressive places in the world. You cannot have an opinion in your workplace without being fearful of losing your job. You cannot have an opinion in your community, calling in on talk show programs, without being fearful of losing your job. If you're a civil servant, you dare not do it. Right? Being castigated, and all of these other things. This is the community that we live in here in the Cayman Islands. And it is compounded even more so if you are a Caymanian, because you are at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to your freedoms and your rights. So you keep your mouth shut, you do what they tell you to do, and everything will be okay. That's what they want you to believe. So those of us who speak up, who do not keep our mouths shut, will be held to task. You'll be held down in your own community. You'll be stripped of opportunities to make a living and to survive in the Cayman Islands. I'm not making this stuff up, and I'm not telling you what I don't know through experience and observations of my own. You will become a Jonathan Piercy. You will become, there's so many names that I have missed over the years. Trust me, the list is so long right now. Even a Dwayne Ebanks, who for quite some time after being involved in politics, couldn't get a job. You will become a Andrea Christian. Want me to tell you about Andrea? She worked at the country's largest law firm. And one day she had the audacity to say, essentially, that she thought that a particular lawyer, I can't remember if he's a partner or whatever, in the firm was prejudicial towards Caymanians, didn't like Caymanians, and therefore, treated them less than. Because she dared to express her opinion. You know what happened to her? Let me tell you what happened to her. On the cusp of getting called to the bar, she had actually completed her articles, which, as you know, after your law degree, you've got to do 18 months of training with these law firms. She got articles at Maples. She made this comment at the wrong time because she had just completed her articles and was waiting for the court date where you go and they put forward all your documentation, right? She did 6 months in trust. She did 6 months in corporate, 6 months in litigation. She met all the requirements. We were putting forth her application to have her called to the bar. They wouldn't do that. They would not call Andrea Christian, a Caymanian, to the bar because she dared to have an opinion that a partner might be prejudiced. I want you guys to hear what I'm telling you this morning. This is what you are subjected to, folks. And unfortunately for Andrea, the way the law is designed, nobody else can call her to the bar because nobody else did her training. Nobody else can sign off and said, yes, 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 and yes, that she met all of her earmarks. So this law firm is about to destroy the life of a young Caymanian who has worked incredibly hard to get through law school, to get through her article, to do all of that, simply because she spoke out. She spoke up. This, my friend, is the Cayman Islands. Welcome to the Cayman Islands, in case you didn't know. And as Caymanians, a lot of us know the score. A lot of us know the cold, hard truth. So when I started Cayman Mall Road, this was seen as a joke. It was never going to amount to anything. Alden was like, whatever, just like probably half of you. Whoever thought that here we are on a Tuesday morning, and over 200 of you would be tuned into Cayman Mall Road listening to what I have to say. But you know what? One thing about me, I'm going to keep at it. I don't know where I get the tenaciousness from, because some people ask me, my God, where do you get your drive from? You know, for someone who's come from nowhere, from nothing, I don't have a certain last name. I didn't have anybody helping me financially. I didn't have anyone giving me a piece of land, putting any money in my bank account, nothing. I barely had people willing to give me a fucking job. Despite sacrificing, getting the piece of paper that they tell you that you must get, right? Not the one piece of paper, 4 or 5 pieces of paper later, and the bitch is still trying to hold you down. So I can relate on a personal level to the struggles. And it is more insulting to me when it is your own that do it. Someone like an Alden McLaughlin. He's supposed to be my own brother in this struggle. He is a Black man, and I don't care how much he straightens his hair. Alden, I straighten my hair too, my friend, but I'm still a Black woman. And that's the stark reality that I have to live with, and the world that I have to live with. There's no privilege here. So you make all of these sacrifices in your life, and then you have someone like Alden who's reached a little place in life, wants to stand up and talk shit about you, wants to lie about what you've achieved. Oh, you don't have a business license, he told the Legislative Assembly yesterday. She doesn't have a license as media. Alden must be out of his goddamn mind. Not only do I have a license as media, and I'm going to show you guys where you can go check it for yourselves. When we first started out, like I said, we were registered overseas, and we would go to GIS and say, okay, we're media. We need to get on your list. Da, 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 da. Oh, no. We're not going to consider you media because you're registered overseas. Okay, no problem. We can get a local license. Apply for local license. We get that. We submit it. Oh, okay. Well, all right. We'll add you to the media list. We'll consider you as some kind of media, but we're not going to invite you to press conferences. Why? This is like saying, I want to have my cake and eat it too. That type of analogy. It's either or either. We're either media or we're not media. And if you say we're not media, then we got a fucking problem because we have a license that says we're media. Police, they did the same thing, trying to keep us out on the fringes. So they had a media list. When we said to them, we'd like to get added to your media list. Well, now, hold on a second. We have got all sorts of requirements to add you to our media list. We want you to provide this and this and this. And listen to the shit the police came with. We need to have access to your social media accounts, including your personal account. Say what? Are you kidding me? Oh, yes. Because we're not just concerned about what you're going to say on Cayman Mall Road. We're concerned about what you're going to say on your own personal Facebook platform where you have thousands of followers that listen to you. Wow. The cold hard truth, folks. So I said, okay, sometimes you got to play the game with the man, right? All right, no problem. We'll give you that access. We'll friend you on Facebook. So, because you ain't got nothing to do. Clearly, the police have no crimes to be solving, no unsolved murders, no checking of our borders for drug importation, gangbangers in Cayman, none of that. You have time to sit down and watch my social media page. All of my social media pages you need access to in order to add us to a media list. Now, do you think in a million years that was ever done with the Compass? Cayman News Service? I don't even know if Hurley's Media was on their list. Do you think they went to Danica at Luke Cayman for her to get added to their list and was told that you need to give us access to your personal social media accounts? People, I want you to wake up this morning. This is June the 30th, and you need to wake up because I'm telling you some facts here today. Some months into this relationship, we'll call it, this overhanded relationship, because if you print something that they don't like, they're like, oh no, well, we don't like that you've done that. What? So one day we published some story. I think it was the security guard who had been found deceased on the waterfront in a car. So we published that story. Oh, the police press woman, we don't like how you're publishing this story. We don't like how woman, you don't work for Cayman Mall Road. You're not writing the damn stories. Please go take several seats. We are pulling your media access, she tells me. I can't even remember how many months it was, right? I was like, her name is Jacqueline, what the hell is her name again? Jacqueline Carpenter, former press manager or something at the Cayman RCIPS. So I said, Jackie, this is where now, obviously Jacqueline Carter or Carpenter, whatever the hell her name is, didn't know Sandra, right? This is where now you got me confused with somebody who gives a damn. Because those of you who know me know you can only push me so far before I'm going to stand up and say, what the fuck are you talking about? Right? I am the nigger in the fields. I don't want to be no house nigger. I'm not going to kiss your ass. I don't care who you are. I'm the same person on a full scholarship from Maples and Calder when I had a partner, and I will never forget this day. Tim Ridley called me in his office trying to get me fired and hold me to task because here I was on study leave and he wanted me to help him with a personal project. And because I sent a very polite email saying, sir, just a reminder that I'm actually on study leave. And the only reason I'm responding to your email is out of courtesy to remind you of that. I'm actually not even working. This man hauls me into his office and tells me that when he says to jump, I must say how high. And I said, oh, baby, let us get this straight here today. Any name you want to call me, Sandra Solomon, Sandra Catron, or Sandra Hill, you got the wrong person here today. And I told him in no uncertain terms, Tim, with all due respect, I'm the wrong person. I am here working as hard as I can, working full-time, going to school full-time, because back then they didn't quite have the scholarship program figured out. So somebody said to me, why are you working full-time, going to school full-time? You should be a part-time student and still getting your salary. They didn't have all those details figured out when I first started, because I was one of the first to go through the program at that time. They had me confused with somebody else. I looked him in the face. I said, Tim, that ain't me. You looking for someone to say how high when you tell them to jump? I'm sorry, that's not Sandra. Not only is that not me, but I'm not about to get on my knees and perform any sexual acts like I see some other Caymanians doing up in here who are trying to go to law school, who have aspirations. They had to sleep with the partners in those law firms to get anywhere. And I ain't lying on these people. I'm telling you the cold hard facts. I don't have to call her name. She's a partner today. Good for her. Maybe she thought that that paid off, but that wasn't going to be me. Tim Ridley had the audacity to tell me how they have our Caymanian politicians in their back pocket. And when they tell them to do X, Y, Z, it is done. Of course you do. That is why as a Caymanian, we have no rights in this country. That is why as a Caymanian, you guys can continue to hire anybody you want. And there's no level of accountability. I know you have them in your back pocket, but I'm glad you told me that. In case there was any doubts in my stupid little mind about what was going on, you've just confirmed that you tell the politicians to jump and they say how high. That is why over a week ago, Brett Hill, the CEO and president of Fidelity, could sit in the Legislative Assembly and talk to the Public Accounts Committee like they're a bunch of fools. And then say afterwards in the Legislative Assembly, oh, I'll go have a drink with Alden. Because, oh yeah, we know what that's all about. That's going to get smoothed right over. So let's go back to the RCIPS, Jacqueline Carter, yeah? So she gets her panties in a bunch and, oh, we're going to be pulling your license and, or you're pulling you from the press list, blah, blah, blah. That's all right, Jacqueline. No problem, TD. Because once again, you think that somehow I give a damn, you know? Jacqueline, you're mistaken. And in fact, I said to her at the time, not only do I not give a damn, but you can keep your so-called press access, media access, whatever the hell you want to call it, because the truth of the matter is, on more occasions than not, we get the story before you even send out a press release 2 days later. So we already know, oh, there was a murder in West Bay. As it's happening, we get the friggin' tips, the video, the pictures, everything. You know why? Because the people on the streets here in the Cayman Islands know what Cayman and Mar Road is all about. The people know that this newspaper is a people's source for information. We're for the people, and by and large, we are by the people. We bring your issues to light. The information that you share is what gets put out there in our news stories. That's what we highlight. And they cannot stand that. Every single time we'd post up a story, they would swear that someone in their ranks is leaking out information. I'm not saying that may not be the case sometimes, but we don't have to get leaks from inside the RCIPS. Remember the police officer who committed suicide? The commissioner launched an entire investigation into how did Cayman Road get this information. So you think I'm surprised that here we are in 2020 and they're coming at me with not one, not two, but 3 criminal charges in relation to Cayman Road? It's no surprise, my friends. From 2017, when we got started, it was all about how do we shut her down? No one is winning a civil suit, even when they bring it, even when their pockets are deep. Nobody's winning a civil lawsuit. Let's try another angle. Let me tell you how disgusting our own people can be to each other. Alden McLaughlin isn't the only one. Remember former politician from West Bay, Clyde Glidden? We're going to tell the cold hard truth here today. A couple months back when we were fighting this millionaire case, right? You guys know it was in the news. We covered it. He obtained what's called a sequestration order, which basically gives him the right to go after everything I own. So they started digging. They sent it around to insurance companies. They sent it around to banks. What assets does Sandra have? Does she have a house? Does she have a car in her name? This, that, and the next thing. Clyde Glidden, not the expats who were actually running the show, the high-paid consultant partners who were actually in charge of the case. Clyde didn't have nothing to do with the case against me directly. But he was the little lackey, the little house nigger that would be used to run to Cayman News Service with the story of, oh, we're going to take her house. We're going to do this. Not really the whole truth now, is it? He was the one circulating the sequestration order as though I hadn't already covered it in my news, trying to give it a certain appearance. Because, folks, this is how they tear you down when they have exhausted all other resources. Criminal charges is how they tear you down when they have exhausted all other resources. Claiming that you don't have a business license or a license as media is how they try to tear you down. So she revoked our access to the RCIPS press releases. And you know what? We don't care. We didn't care then, and we don't care now. So back in October the 3rd of 2017, we wrote her an email and said to her, you know, you can revoke her press release, access to press releases, whatever. We get the information before you anyway. However, what is unacceptable is the fact that when we send questions through, we are completely being ignored and none have been responded to. This is what we sent her on October the 3rd of 2017. Remember now, CMR started in June of 2017. And already by October, we're not getting responses to our questions. We said this is unacceptable. We would appreciate a response to our queries, which are aimed at releasing correct information to the public where possible. All right. So they want to say that we peddle in fake news. But what they don't want to tell the people of the Cayman Islands is when we send through official questions to government agencies, whether it's the RCIPS, immigration, whoever, 99% of the time, they do not respond. And so when they don't respond and we publish your stories, then they want to turn around and claim that, oh, we got the story wrong and we're peddling in fake news. Really? And that's the game, the cat and mouse game that they have played with us from day one. So we filed a complaint with the Ombudsman's office. But hold on, we're not done yet. We didn't file that complaint until after Jacqueline Carpenter wrote to the police commissioner and said in one of her emails to ignore me, right? Let me try to see if I can even find that one. To ignore our questions, to ignore us, because we were not even worth responding to. We have the email because you know what she did? Being the high-paid professional that she is, she accidentally sent us an email that was meant to go just to the commissioner. You know, when you're in church, this would be a come to Jesus moment. When the people in the podium would say, hallelujah, you have been exposed. Jacqueline Carpenter, the same woman who was working for the RCIPS, slip and fell, had the audacity to sue the government for this slip and fall. I guess she got her paid out because not long after she picked up her bags and left. So she got her $1 million payout and is probably enjoying a nice condo that she's purchased with cash in Spain or somewhere in Europe. Amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. So then in August of 2019, we sent correspondence through to the governor's office about the RCIPS ignoring our media queries. And we said in that email, Cayman Mall Road may not be traditional cookie cutter media. However, we are licensed as an online newspaper in this jurisdiction and have received other forms of legitimacy from other government entities, including GIS and the courts. All right. Still no help, huh? So eventually we had to file an official complaint with the Ombudsman's office against the RCIPS. So let us now look at Alden McLaughlin again more specifically. Just giving you guys some background information on the struggles. So let's have a look at what Alden said, because sometimes there's no substituting a man's own words for his own words, right? So let's back it up here now. So the backstory is, and again, I have no reason to lie. Kenneth Bryan spoke to me the night before and he said, I have submitted some parliamentary questions about the media and I wanted to just fact check a few things with you. I said, okay, do you have a business license? I'm like, duh. Anybody can go look it up. dci.gov.ky has all business licenses listed in the Cayman Islands. Folks, go check it out. So if you want to do business with a company and you're not sure if they have a business license, go to the government website. The information is a matter of public record. It's no secret if you have a business license or not. Okay, no problem. So Kenneth says, I'm bringing these questions. I'm a bit concerned about what I've seen going on. We didn't ask Kenneth Bryan to bring these questions. In fact, he's not even bringing the questions on our behalf. I understand that he has concerns about how other media houses, Hurley's Media, and others are being treated as well. So this isn't unique to CMR. Now, you guys will remember when the press briefing started with COVID-19. The very first one where it was announced that patient Ground Zero was actually positive at Health City. We were there and we live streamed that event. We were there not because we were invited. We were there because we had heard, because again, our sources are that good. We had heard that there was a big press conference that was going to be happening at the Glass House government building, whatever it's called these days. And we showed up, security guard let us in because everybody but the premier apparently sees us as press. Everybody, even GIS, sees us as some kind of press, but they don't want to invite us to press conferences. So we showed up and we were there and we live streamed it. They blacked us out of the one in January after the earthquake. Remember that? They had a press conference. They refused to invite us. But there are times when they invite us to press opportunities when it's convenient for them. So when the helicopter landed, oh yeah, let's invite Cayman Mall Road to that. For the purpose of this, we'll consider them media. It doesn't even make any sense what GIS is doing. GIS is making themselves look stupid and unprofessional. What is the criteria? And we're going to talk about that here in a second. So they wouldn't invite us to any of the COVID-19 stuff, right? The first one we just showed up to. No one really noticed it because despite them not inviting us, we're no dummies here at Cayman Mall Road. So we found a way to pull the stream and to live stream it to you guys the same way on our platforms. So in fact, you didn't even know that we were not there. Boy, do they hate you when you're smarter than them. So we were still pulling in viewers, still getting all the information, and not in the room with them being exposed potentially to the coronavirus, which I thought in the end was very ironic. So when they decided then to switch to the Zoom sessions, a lot of you started messaging me saying, where's Cayman Mall Road? Because all this time you actually thought we were there in the room with them, and we were not. And I hadn't made a big deal about it yet, because from January I had lodged a complaint with the deputy governor. He had asked for time to sort it out and to look into it. By the time coronavirus hit, he's like, I'm really busy right now. Give me more time. Here we are going into July, some 7 months. And I know we say time longer than rope, but my God, time is infinite. There has to be an end to your time at some point. So we still have no resolution. So now we've had to report that situation to the Ombudsman office as well. Okay. So back in January, as people started to make queries, right? This is where now I'm going to show you how Alden McLaughlin is a very untruthful man. Let's start with what he said first. So let us go now to the Legislative Assembly proceedings from yesterday. So this is Kenneth Bryan, who took it upon himself. Remember now, Kenneth was a member of the media. Kenneth took it upon himself to have this conversation. Here we go, Mr. Kenneth. Let me just pull this up here. And
The elected member for Georgetown Central to ask the Honourable Minister of Employment, Border Control, Community Affairs, International Trade, Investment, Aviation, Maritime Affairs, question number 17.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask the question on the order paper, number 17, standing in my name. Can the Honourable Minister say, with respect to the national press briefing, A, what is the protocol for the press briefing? And B, how or who decides which media house or reporters are invited to attend the press briefing?
Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, with respect to the COVID-19 press briefings, of which we've now had 48, I think, was the last count. 48. The Governor and the Premier determine when a briefing will take place. GIS informs representatives of all recognized local news organizations, and the access to press briefings follows the same criteria used to issue media passes to government events. Reminders of the scheduled start time or changes to this are also issued on social media. The video team conducts in-house video and audio checks at least 3 hours prior to the broadcast. The video team conducts Zoom tests with media at least an hour prior to broadcast. The feed goes live on YouTube and Facebook platforms 4 to 5 minutes prior to the scheduled start time. This means subscribers and followers are notified directly by electronic alerts to the devices. For example, Facebook notifications pop up on phones saying Cayman Islands government is live. After the link is live, but before the press briefing has started, the public can view a range of important public service announcements on various COVID-19 related topics, such as how to clean your mask, advice from educators, and other timely videos, for example, to mark Father's Day. In addition to answering questions from the media, the panel and guests also answer questions submitted from any member of the public via the facilitator. Members of the public can also submit questions via the website. Use the chat bot function. And myself, as Premier and the Governor, have also been reminding audiences of the next scheduled briefing at the end of the previous briefing. Now, who receives a GIS media pass and hence may attend press briefings? It is important to note there is no local media association and hence no formal journalistic accreditation process in the Cayman Islands. In the absence of a professional body, GIS issues media passes, not as accreditation to any local media houses or journalists, but solely to facilitate attendance and participation by journalists and the news organizations that employ them at public events as well as media-focused events hosted by government. As the local media sector started expanding beyond long-established media houses prior to granting media passes, GIS began asking new media houses that requested passes to provide an appropriate trade and business license and some historical evidence of their intention and ability to adhere to established journalistic principles. For example, this might be a sample body of work that reflects an understanding of journalism ethics or the ability to consistently apply a journalistic code of conduct or editorial guidelines in their previous careers or employment. Meanwhile, because GIS is a public information office as well as a public relations office and is focused on sharing government information as widely as possible, outlets that are focused on entertainment rather than journalism and as such may not qualify have the option to receive media releases and public information in addition to asking questions about government services. Recently, to accommodate the growth of social media audiences, community influencers that cater to a clearly defined audience in special areas of interest may receive access to media events that focus on those areas, but are not allowed to ask questions without a media pass.
Member Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the minister say whether or not the sentence he just read can be determined as subjective? Because what I'm going to be getting at, Madam Speaker, is what seems to be pick a choosy as to who comes to the media house. And the fact that there seems to be no proper outline as to who's selected. It says outline that outlets that are focused on entertainment rather than journalism. Who decides that? Can the minister say, please?
GIS.
Honorable Premier.
GIS, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the minister say how GIS decides whether a company is an entertainment company or a journalism company when in fact they offer the license which the companies pay for as a media house, when recognizing in this same press release that there's no accreditation process here in Cayman? So what I'm saying, Madam Speaker, is it seems to me is there's a lot of subjectivity as to who is a proper journalist, and they recognize that there's no accreditation process. So somebody is making a selective process, and they're not saying exactly how. So if you have no association to hold them to account to some standard, which they recognize there should be one, the Premier has said so himself on other press conferences. But if we don't have one, how can you be subjective as to say, well, we think you're entertainment rather than journalism when they paid their taxpayers' money to get a license to government? I'm still confused because this is contradicting itself, Madam Speaker. So I am still waiting to hear the answer in respect to who, by way, what process does government information services determine, oh, you're for entertainment and you are a true journalist if we have no accreditation process, Madam Speaker?
Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I'm not going to try to get into the heads of the people at GIS, but essentially, if you are not a journalist And we do know what a journalist is, and you have a license to operate as a journalist. You are invited to participate in the question and answer process. If you don't have that kind of license, you are not entitled to ask questions. In other words, you don't have a media pass. So those are not decisions that I or the government, elected government, take. These are decisions that are taken by the professional people at GIS, who I believe ought to know who or what entity qualifies as a journalist and what qualifies as journalism.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the minister is in charge of the government information services. Through the protocols of this honorable house, I apologize, Madam Speaker. I apologize, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Premier is answering on behalf of that department. It falls under the Cabinet Secretary. Madam Speaker, my role in this honorable house is to ask the government about concerns that matter to the people. Now, if the minister is going to answer on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary, then he should be prepared for the supplementary questions. Now, this is a pretty simple, straightforward question, Madam Speaker. How is that determined? Journalism is important to democracy. If there is subjectivity, it can be perceived as the government trying to control the agenda. Now, that was a simple, expected supplementary the minister should have known was coming and should have been prepared with that answer. Now, what he's going to say is, I can't answer it because you don't know what GS said. You're the minister that's answering it. You should have come prepared for that. Madam Speaker, let me move on to my actual question. Can the minister say...
Madam Speaker.
Honourable Premier.
I have been very patient this morning. Every time there is a supplementary question, that member in particular gets up and makes a long speech before he asks the question. If I hadn't been here all these years, I would have forgotten long ago what the question was by the time he gets to the end of his speech. If we are going to get through this process, I would ask, Madam Speaker, that you ensure that members ask questions and not make long speeches, because we're going to be here until I don't know how late, and we haven't gotten through most of the questions on the paper yet. This grandstanding is completely unnecessary for the process.
Member for Georgetown Central, can you just make your questions brief, please?
Madam Speaker, I'd like to adhere to your orders, but I want to remind the Honourable Minister that the standing orders do allow me to have a preamble to my question. So I am not disobeying the standing orders. But that being said, Madam Speaker, can the minister say, doesn't a license granted to a media house qualify them to be journalists?
Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I think the member has now hit on the point. Those entities and individuals that have licenses to operate as journalists, I've said this before, are invited to participate in the question and answer process. They have media passes. It is the media pass issued by GIS that entitles you to participate or not. I don't issue those passes. My ministry doesn't issue those passes. Those passes are issued by the Government Information Services, and the persons who are employed there are employed on a professional basis to be able to make those assessments as to who qualifies as journalists and who are just otherwise engaged in social media. And everybody's engaged in social media these days. It is a whole new game, but there is still the profession of journalism. And there is a very limited number of people in this country who have those qualifications.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the minister say if all the media houses who are licensed were invited to the press briefings under the coronavirus pandemic?
As far as I'm aware,
Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, yes.
Member
you,
for
Madam
Georgetown
Speaker.
Central.
Can the minister say if Hurley's Media or Cayman Mall Road was invited to the national press briefings, yes or no?
Honorable Premier.
I don't know if those were, but I do not believe that that Cayman Mall Road holds a license to operate as a journalist.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the minister say if there has been any complaints about disproportionate treatment to any licensed media house? If so, what was the conclusion of that complaint?
Honorable Premier.
I have not been made aware of any complaints, Madam Speaker.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this is my last two. And Madam Speaker, thank you for your indulgence and your patience with me this morning. Can the minister say if there's any written requirement at the Government Information Services to mandate any media house to have a code of ethics in order for them to get a press pass? And if there is, can he provide it to this honorable house?
Honorable Premier.
I don't have the answer to that question, Madam Speaker.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the honorable minister please provide the answer in writing at the soonest available date, because this is a very important matter in respect to how the process is done, because it is my humble opinion that decisions are being made with no written policy or direction on how it's done. So if there is one, can he give the commitment that will be provided to me and my other colleagues at this house?
Honorable Premier.
I will make the necessary inquiries and provide an answer, Madam Speaker.
Okay, folks. So let us now reflect on, I see some of you are picking up on the BS coming out of the Premier's mouth. Let us now reflect on exactly what the Premier has said. Apparently GIS falls under him. And he expects us to believe that Suzette Ebanks, who's head of GIS, is making these types of decisions on her own without his interference in any way, shape, or form. Okay, let us then reflect on that line of thinking and on the things that he said. So the Premier wants us to believe, despite there being no standards in the Cayman Islands for journalists, when I say no standards, let me tell you what I mean. Cayman 27, bless their little heart. They have hired people. Kenneth Bryan was a journalist. Kenneth does not have a degree in journalism. He had no journalistic training whatsoever, but he was a reporter at Cayman 27, as most people who actually worked for Cayman 27 had no background in mass media, journalism, none of it. His nephew, Seaford, another bright young Caymanian, up and coming, went to Cayman 27. He was a reporter at Cayman 27. Oh, I'm sorry. What journalistic standards are we talking about? Show me the journalism degree. Show me the qualifications. So the Premier gets up and says that there are a limited number of people who have those qualifications here in the Cayman Islands. With all due respect, Alden McLaughlin, what qualifications are you talking about? What are they? There's no such qualification anywhere in the world, in fact. Most people might go to school and they will study journalism, mass media, speech communication. Someone can study anything in the world, international studies, and end up becoming a journalist. What, pray tell, are the qualifications in your mind that you claim very limited people in this country have? What makes you a journalist? Do you know what credentials Wendy Ledger has? Does Wendy Ledger have a bachelor's degree in journalism? Alden McLaughlin don't know. He has no clue what that woman has. All he knows is over 10 years ago, Wendy started CNS. She's had some writing background from overseas. Has he ever seen her resume? I doubt it. So who has the journalistic qualifications that he's talking about? Even the oldest writers at the Compass, who've been there for 20, 30, 40 years. I'm sorry. Tell me what journalistic qualifications they have. Alden, it's called on-the-job training. That's what they had. One day they started as green as a green mango. In case you don't know what that is, go outside and look at the trees. And through time and experience, they honed their skills and they developed their skills. When they got started doing interviews and asking questions, was anyone saying, oh, you're not a journalist, so we're not going to give you access to stuff? The premier talks about some sort of journalistic license, as though there's somewhere in the Cayman Islands you can go to get one. The question that I would want to ask the premier is, please show me where this license is. There is no such thing in the Cayman Islands. Not only is there no journalistic principles, code of conduct, there's no journalistic association, none of that exists. There is no formal qualification process to become a journalist in the Cayman Islands. And by extension, we have seen both GIS and the premier accepting others as journalists who are far less qualified than me. The cold hard truth, folks, is the premier stood up yesterday morning in the Legislative Assembly and lied. And he knows he was lying. We don't have a license? Well, there's no such thing as a formal journalistic license or accreditation. So no, we don't have a license in that. We have a business license, which is the only thing you need to operate as online media, just like Cayman News Service. We have that. Okay. Hold on a second now. You guys know there's such a thing as the trade and business licensing law, and it will tell you the different categories of licenses in the Cayman Islands that you could obtain a license for. Might I suggest to the Honorable Premier, who I remind you is also a lawyer and should be well familiar with the laws of the Cayman Islands, is please, good man, go and read the laws. You will see the available laws and the available licenses that you can actually get. They have it broken down into several different categories. Look it up. It's not rocket science. But you know, he couldn't answer the questions honestly, because the honest answer is Mr. McLaughlin has brought this up before after he heard of my complaint. So he also claims that he knows of no one who's made a complaint about not having access to, in particular, the COVID-19 press briefings. In the words of Jerry Springer, that was a lie. And I'm going to tell you how I know that. In January, when we made our complaint about we're not getting access to press conferences, the matter was taken up with the premier. And you know what he said? Okay, man, my road not got no license. Okay. And I said to his little lackey, really? Tell the premier to go to the dci.gov website and have a look and say that to me again. Because he must be out of his damn mind. We don't have a license? Folks, go and look for yourselves. It is a matter of public record. If you go to the DCI's website, click on where it says, I'm just trying to find a list for you guys, trying to make this as easy as possible. There's an area where they have all of the licenses listed. And you can just type in Cayman Mall Road, poof, Compass, poof. It's going to come right up. All right, let me see here if I can find it. I'm going to find it for you guys and post it in the link, okay? So it's there. It's a matter of public information. And on top of that, Alden himself knows that it's there because it has been brought to his attention before that we were making an official complaint. And despite what GIS, I guess he's claiming, told him that we don't have a license, that simply isn't true. Notice what he said. After other people started coming online, GIS came up with this standard. They never had it before. They didn't have it with Cayman News Service. They didn't have it with the Compass or anybody else. Caymanian Times, no one else. What the premier should have just been fully honest and said, oh, when Cayman Mall Road came on the scene, we made up the fact that now we want news organizations to have some sort of journalistic principles and code of conduct. So now you want to hold me to criteria that no one else, because they've been long established media license. That's the term the man just used. Go back and listen to what he said. So all of a sudden now GIS is going to arbitrarily make up some cockamamie story about now we want you to demonstrate that you have journalistic principles and code of conduct. Listen here, folks, I'm no fool. And not only am I not a fool, but contrary to what the premier thinks, I have more journalistic experience than probably 90% of the people who are out there writing for other newspapers. Let's talk about that for a minute. You don't have to believe me. Go and check for yourself. You know where my writing career started? Back in the 1990s. I'm not trying to age myself here, but I'm in my 40s. Back in the 1990s, when I started working with the Oracle newspaper at the University of South Florida. Big up to USF. The Oracle newspaper back then was a printed newspaper. Nothing was really online back in the 90s as much. And I wrote articles. I was in the production room. I saw how a newspaper was put together. My university degree, my bachelor's degree, is in professional and technical writing, Alden McLaughlin. Do you want to see it? I can pull it out. And I wrote for the school newspaper. I have interviewed guest lecturers from the Middle East. The president of USF, which, by the way, back then in the 90s, the USF population, the student body population, was the equivalent of the population of the Cayman Islands. And I was writing for them with no issues. I have written for local newspapers, Cayman News Service, Cayman Net News. Trying to think who other submitted applications to magazines, articles to magazines, Loop Cayman. So when I started Cayman Mall Road, this isn't someone who has no journalistic experience. If there was such a thing as a journalistic license, which there isn't, I would be able to apply and obtain it with no issues whatsoever. But they want to have this sliding scale, you see, because they believe that we are stupid people. And they want to insult us with their twisted tongue, Jesus had a donkey riding parable that none of us will ever understand what the hell they're saying. Notice what he said, and I'm sure that Suzette over at GIS helped him with this, because this is the logic now that they're trying to claim. Oh, they're going to give us media releases because it's beneficial to get that information out into the public, and they will determine what media events that we are invited to, and anything that falls into, oh, it's more social media or entertainment, we'll invite you to those. Say what? So we'll give you media access to certain things, but we're not going to issue a media pass for you to be able to come to press conferences. This is the stupidest thing that I've ever heard. I'm sorry, who is Suzette Ebanks again? What journalistic qualifications does she have? Chances are she started at GIS or government out of high school and just moved up the ranks herself, as with most government jobs. Does she have a degree in journalism? Who is she to set the bar or the standard for what a journalist is. You see, this now, people, is where you need to be prepared to pick sense from nonsense. There are people who are trying to tell you something and hold you to a standard that they themselves can't even be held to. Listen, I don't know nothing about Suzette, and I don't have no beef with her. But I want you to tell me, Suzette, what journalistic principles and code of conduct are you talking about? Because they do not exist here in the Cayman Islands. Let's look at her credentials for a second. According to LinkedIn, she has a degree in writing and cultural politics. That's journalism? Well, I don't know if she actually has a degree because it just says MSc. So I guess it says 1999 to 2000. You can't get a degree in a year. So what did she obtain in a year? I have no idea. But some writing and cultural politics. And then it looks like she went on from 2002 to 2003 and did a residency. It says M residence in media and communications. Again, show me the journalism qualification, the journalistic degree. May not see it. She started with Government Information Services, GIS, in 1996 as an information officer. That's the bottom of the totem pole, yes? And like I said, she's probably just out of high school. So she has worked her way up. She went from information officer to chief information officer. That's where she's at now, head of GIS. She claims that she's done public affairs coordinator. So here is someone who is trying to tell me about journalistic standards and journalistic principles when her own qualifications do not make her an expert in that area at all. She doesn't have a journalistic degree, but yet every day she's sitting down writing press releases on behalf of government. Those are the easiest things in the world to write, to be quite honest. They're not controversial. They don't have anything in them of, it's just straight run of the mill. Oh, right, this person got an award today, blah, blah, blah. Great. But you're no expert in this area yourself, madam. So your arbitrary decisions to try to give someone a media pass or media access to an event is ridiculous. And you know why the premier had this prepared thing that he could read out? Is because the Ombudsman's office is on the cusp of releasing their report on the complaint that we have lodged about the fact that these institutions like GIS are refusing to recognize us as media. There's no such thing, Alden McLaughlin, as a journalistic degree. You are a lawyer. Do your checks and balances. But we know you already know this, and this is why we're calling you duplicitous and a liar. Okay? A media house only needs to have a media license, and they can hire anybody they want to do the writing for them. So you try to discredit people. I sat down for 4 years of my life, did speech communication as a minor, abnormal psychology as a minor, and professional technical writing. That's a bachelor's, that's a 4-year degree, sir. So don't come to me talking no cockamamie story about a journalistic license which doesn't even exist. Pick sense from nonsense, folks. When we type in, I need to enlarge this because this is kind of small. When we type in media here in the Cayman Islands, and again, I'm going to show you the list. There it is. That's the DCI list that's going to tell you every business that has a license in the Cayman Islands as of this date. This is as of, it looks like March of 2020. Okay? So there are a number of institutions that come up when we type in media. So let's have a look at who they are. We know we're on the list, but let's see who else is on the list. Nothing there about journalism. There's nothing there about a journalistic degree. It doesn't exist. Alden also claimed, while that page is loading, it's quite a large document actually, he also claims to have no knowledge of any complaints about people not having access to the press conferences. Wow. Alden, you either have a very short memory or you're a very dishonest person. April the 2nd. I want to show this guys to you. I have known Alden, like I said, on casual terms for a very long time. We go back to the founding members of the PPM, the People's Progressive Movement. And so I've had his phone number from day one. He's never changed it. On occasion, I WhatsApp him. He always ignores me for the most part, but whatever. Here we have me writing him on April the 2nd, where I sent him a screenshot that was sent by somebody else, where they said, they were talking about this article of somebody setting themselves on fire, and they said, oh, this is so terrible. Why aren't you in on the prep briefings at 11:05 p.m.? I'm sure you'd have better questions than Rejma any day of the week. So we respond and say, or I respond and say, that is so strange, because you're the second person that I've asked that this evening. Oh my God, how psychic. That's me responding. I sent that to the premier on WhatsApp. I also sent him this, where we said on the 4th of April, but honestly, not getting invited to the press briefings, I was forced to be creative and think outside of the box. So he doesn't know of anyone who hasn't been invited or allowed into the press briefings. Is this man for real right now? He can't be. When you search for media on the list of licenses, you get test results or results for 48 different hits. Someone else says, how come you aren't at the press briefings? I know you would ask some questions, some great questions. Nuts. We also send this other one. I find it oddly strange that CMR has yet been on press conference. Why is Rejma there? Ugh. And as you can see, these are not conversations that we are initiating. We even say to this person, do we really need to be? All of this information was sent to the premier in conversations on WhatsApp, and he read them. So for him to stand up in the Legislative Assembly yesterday and claim that he does not know of anyone who has not gotten access to the press conference who has a media license seems like a lie to me. He claims that we are in the entertainment business. Well, funny enough, there is a license category called media entertainment. There's a company here called Loud Production Media Entertainment. That's not the license that we have, sir. There's web design, social media marketing. Once again, that is not the license that we have. There's oh, that's mediation. Hold on. Let me see what else we got here. We have one called content and media. That's not what we have either. We have multimedia services. April Cummings has that, trading as Cayman Spaces. That's not what we have either. There's media, film, editing, and commercials. We don't have that license. You can go through the list and you will find Cayman News Service Limited has a license for online news media because they've always been online. What does Cayman Mall Road have a license for? Online news media. So the exact same thing. You can invite CNS to your press conferences, and we have the same license, but you refuse. You refuse to invite Cayman Mall Road. Why? Cayman Compass Limited. Newspaper printer, being any person carrying on the business of printing and publishing a newspaper magazine. They have a license as newspaper publication. There is no such trade and business license as a journalist. It does not exist, folks. So the Premier expects us to believe that as an attorney, as someone who should be familiar with the laws of this country, and even if he isn't, as someone who certainly has the requisite skills to be able to do a basic online search, that he's of the opinion, because GIS told him so, I guess, that there's a license category called journalists. Where would you be getting that from? You just said that there's no formal journalistic accreditation process. Mind you, that'll be the next agenda that they try to push, right? Because they're just going through everything that they can try. If that doesn't exist, okay, there's no such thing as a license for journalists, then what is it that you're talking about? GIS doesn't license people. They don't have that power. They're either going to recognize you for media, which should be based on the business license that you have, or not. There shouldn't be, oh, we're going to, you have a business license for online media, but we are going to recognize you as entertainment. I don't have an entertainment license. What are you talking about? In fact, our license says online newspaper printer being any person carrying on the business of printing and publishing a newspaper or magazine. That's the category of license that we have. So the Premier fully knows we have a business license for that. Lewis, I forget his last name, of Caymanian Times has one for a category called newspaper. The description is the exact same thing, but he's not solely online. So again, I'm asking, where is this so-called license that he's talking about as journalists? It doesn't even exist. The bottom line, folks, is Alden doesn't like Cayman Mall Road, and he doesn't have to like Cayman Mall Road. In fact, Alden doesn't have to read Cayman Mall Road. We don't care. But we will not allow you to sit back and talk about standards that do not exist. We will not allow you to get in front of the people of this country via the Legislative Assembly and lie, blatantly lie about Cayman Mall Road. We have a license locally. There is no reason that you can convince anyone in a logical sense that you're going to pick and choose what events to invite us to, what, you'll send us all of your press releases because, oh yeah, that's information we want to get out there. Is your press releases about COVID-19 entertainment, since you claim we're in the entertainment business? It's like Alden does not even understand the world of journalism or media in 2020. Last week, he made some remarks that he was not prepared to bail out the Compass should they fail, as a result of government now mandating job adverts to be placed on their Cayman job site. And his words were, if you go back and read the article, his words at the time is that media around the world is changing, he says. And the Compass and anybody else needs to be innovative enough to capture their audience and have their consumers pay for them to stay afloat. So if the man is talking about innovative media, I want you guys to go back and read this article. He says any media that is reliant on government to survive is really not independent media. Thank God that we have never had to rely on those contracts from government to survive. If you look at the truth of the matter is, the Compass has by and large been relying on government by way of advertising dollars because they are their biggest advertisers. And now that the job adverts will disappear, and the Compass is already on shaky grounds because nobody's reading print media, nobody buys newspapers anymore. When you can get all the news that you want online, who is going to buy a newspaper? They've reduced to printing once per week. They've gotten rid of staff. The Compass has laid off some of their longest standing employees. And so the writing is on the wall already for them as an organization. They said COVID hit them even harder, but the writing was already on the wall. Listen, the writing was on the wall before David Legge sold it. Let's just be honest here. And so here the premier is talking about be innovative, capture your audience. That's how you're going to get advertising dollars. Cayman Mall Road, and I'm not trying to float my own boat here, but in terms of media, we have been the most innovative thing that this country has seen in a minute. And that innovativeness has meant that, yes, we have rocked the boat. Yes, we came in like a bull in the china shop. Yes, we cover stories that nobody else wants to cover. And we do human interest stories that are very unique to the Caymanian perspective, unlike a lot of the other media. Back in October of last year, we did an editorial piece on news media in the Cayman Islands, a changing of the guards. In case you missed that, go back and read it. All of these things we have been well aware of. We knew the market that we were coming into. We knew how to be innovative, in the words of the premier. And because that innovation shines a light on him and people like him and all politicians, and not just politicians, it shines a light on people like a Matthew Leslie in this community. Dr. Pavlov, a convicted child predator who we hired to work at our university college. It shines the light on everything that government does. We're going to pick up the stories like, why is it on Friday, just this past Friday, Cayman Airways had a plane full of people who were supposed to leave this jurisdiction at 3:00 in the afternoon, heading to Miami, sitting on the tarmac for an hour and a half. Because there were some concerns that someone who was coming in on a flight from Miami was an unauthorized person. In the highlight of COVID-19, you have people, over 80 persons on a flight, having to sit there for an extra hour and a half before you could even take off. breathing recycled air, the AC shutting in and out. You had people missing their connecting flights because of this delay. Them having to pay money to stay in a hotel when they hadn't anticipated that cost. You had Cayman Airways telling them, oh, when they got there, go to the Cayman Airways counter in Miami, and there was nobody at the counter when they got there. And so some of those persons were temporarily stranded and had to find money to pay for the airport hotel, had to rebook and purchase a new ticket to their final destination. And as of yesterday by 4 p.m., Cayman Airways had not reached out to those people yet. You see, those are the kind of stories that here we are as we celebrate our third anniversary that Cayman Road is going to be putting out there and addressing. The government don't want you to know every single time Cayman Airways messes up. They didn't want you to know when the airport shut down because someone had screwed up working on the new tarmac that had happened. We were the first ones there. We were on the ground at the airport after we got a tip. Hours later, they do an official press release that, oh yes, our international airport, the only international airport we have, is shut down. We were the ones walking around the airport saying to passengers, do you know the airport has actually been shut down right now because of an issue in the tarmac? No, nobody told us that. You see, we're not in the information hiding business. We are in the information sharing business. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So yes, it's about control, folks. They can't control what we do. They can't control what we say. I mean, give them credit because they're trying. Like I said, 2 more criminal charges coming down the pipeline. So they're going to do their best and they're going to try. And that lack of control makes them uncomfortable. The fact that we are a voice of the people makes them uncomfortable. The fact now that every single time a police officer, a prison officer, any civil servant does something shady or untoward, we're going to expose it. The fact that we can have a civil servant sitting down stealing thousands of dollars from government, and they decide quite arbitrarily to not lodge a police report. So she gets away with that. And others have been hauled into court, sent to jail for far less than that. It is about a degree of accountability and just overall, exposure that they're uncomfortable with. And what is even worse is that in 3 years, my God, how did Cayman Road get to this point? How do we have over 42,000 followers? When you speak to young people, where are you getting your news? Where are you getting your information from? I listen to Cayman Road, boy, Road. I'm on Instagram. Everything they post on Instagram, I get. That doesn't make the government, our competitors, or a lot of other people very comfortable. But you know what? It's not going to stop us. I want to use the final moments of this show to thank all of you for your ongoing support. Because it is because of you. And I see some persons here who've sent messages saying that they can relate to a lot of what I'm saying this morning. But it is that voice, that ability to give the people a medium. So, the premier says, oh, everybody's in social media. Yes, everybody's in social media. But everybody is not running an online newspaper or a media house. And everyone is not providing that type of service to the general public. And nor do they have a business license to do so. So I want to thank you guys, Sue, Anthony, Aliano, Priscilla, JD, Debbie, Michael Wiltz, Big up Michael, CMEA president, Music Association president. Anthony, Cameron, Marlon watching us from overseas. Oh, sorry, not Marlon. Marlon's here. Marshall is overseas. Perla, every single one of you. Jonathan, thank you so much for the love. Barbara, Donna, Debbie, all of you make this platform as successful as it is. We had a vision. JD, Charlene, Lisa, but without the vision and without the support of the people for that vision and for really understanding where we're going with this, we could not achieve what we have achieved thus far. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your support. Cayman Mall Road would be nothing without the people of this community. And maybe that is ultimately what makes Alden and the established, you talked about, long established media. It is the establishment that has an issue. It is the establishment that can't take the cold, hard truth. You, the people, know what's going on. You know the real deal here. Tamara, thank you so much. Debbie, thank you. You guys are well aware of what they will do to break us every opportunity they get. And I might be crazy because I stand here and I say what I gotta say. And at the end of the day, I say to hell with the consequences. Drag me into court. If I get off, I get off. If I don't get off, one day out of 10 cases, they gotta win at some point. So if they win based on one of these trumped up charges with Cayman Mall Road, what are you gonna do? Send me to Fairbanks for a week? And I'm gonna sit down and have somebody braid my hair? Maybe I'll be able to live stream from Fairbanks and get some changes in there for the women who often contact me from prison talking about how the conditions that they're having to be subjected to. What are you gonna do to me? How are you gonna silence me? Telling lies on us in the Legislative Assembly, that's not gonna silence us because we have the truth, we have the receipts, we have the messages. And there's so much more that I could actually share with the people, but I believe in protecting my sources. So I'm not going to fully out those individuals because, our sources here in Cayman Mall Road, there are bread and butter. And for every company that has come forward, whether it's self-serving or not, to advertise with us, and a lot of them are now coming on board because they're like, listen, you might not like Cayman Mall Road, but 42,000 followers between Instagram and Facebook. You can't argue with the results. But I still want to say thank you because I know the pressure that they're under. I know the establishment, don't advertise with her. Don't put any money into their hands so that they can continue making this venture a success, a possibility. I've always been very grateful and thankful that what we do here, we've been able to do in a very bare bones budget. And whatever money that I have spent on Cayman Mall Road out of my own pocket, I didn't have to rely on Cayman Mall Road advertising to make that possible. Thankfully, I had other available resources. I've had donors in the background who said, Sandy, I respect what you're trying to do. You need a laptop to do your stories in court, whatever, we're gonna buy that laptop for you. Big shout out to Popeyes, Burger King. We had Flo just come on board doing some advertising with us. We've had Digisol come on board doing some advertising with us. All the small mom and pop businesses that are advertising with us. I want to thank you guys because honestly, it is through the advertising revenue that now we can continue to grow because we've had to expand our staff. We've had to hire. None of this stuff comes for free. Small Deals Outlet, they've just come on board as an advertiser, so big shout out to them. Let's Eat Cayman, they've been advertising with us for the last 3 months. So big out to Let's Eat. And at the end of the day, we hold politicians accountable. We hold businesses accountable. So trust me, just because someone's advertising with us doesn't mean we're not going to hold them accountable. We're still holding people accountable. We're holding individuals accountable. We're going to be starting a new youth-focused program, giving the young people of this country a voice, a country in which, if I, as an adult, if I feel like I'm being disenfranchised and I have to fight for my voice, imagine how the youth feel. Imagine how the young people feel. And we are going to be giving them a voice as well. So at the end of the day, thank you all for your continued support. It wouldn't be possible without you. And we will continue to make waves. I mean, I guess that's what we got to do to get things done around here. We will continue to bring the stories sometimes that nobody else wants to bring you. We're going to continue to be as honest as we possibly can. The hard, cold truth. We don't have time to dress it up for you. We're going to just tell you like it is. And we are hoping for next year, the election's right around the corner, 2021. We are really hoping for something better than someone who can get up in what is supposed to be the respected house of the Legislative Assembly and does everything in his power and try to castigate, tell misinformation about Cayman Mall Road. Oh, we don't have a license. Something about journalists, there's no such license. He's never heard a complaint. Really? You know, that's trying to make us look a particular way. And because it's untrue, that is what I have an issue with. Alden, you're supposed to be my brother. And yet you sit down on a daily basis and do things at a policy level, on an individual level, and the things that you say that would take the very bread off of my table, out of my mouth and my child's mouth, if you could. And if you can do it to me, you will do it to anyone. So all of you, this isn't about me, folks. This isn't about me. This is about the broader picture of knowing when your elected officials really do not have the best interest of the people at heart. And that is a sad indictment on us as a country and on our political leadership. I also want to thank Kenneth Bryan, because everybody knows that this is going on. This is no secret. Woody gets shut out. There are times when they've tried to fire Woody. Listen, Kenneth knows how this goes. They fired Kenneth from, I think it was Rooster, right? They fired Austin Harris from Rooster as well, from Crosstalk. They fired Barry Coppe from Crosstalk. Or she got too much mouth for a woman. And so when you create your own platform where nobody can fire you, right? They still try to go through the back door, the side door, the roof, any way that they can to try to get to you. So let's not forget, my apologies, that there are other people who have paid the price. Jonathan Piercy, Andrea Christian, Dwayne Banks, the list goes on and on. Sometimes I'm afraid that I forget the names. Who've been castigated and prevented from supporting their families in a community this size, despite their qualifications, despite whatever. That's what this is really all about. But unfortunately, when people get into positions, sometimes they forget what has happened to them because now they're part of the establishment, right? So they've got to maintain the status quo. They have got to keep their mouth shut to get along, go along to get along. So Kenneth, thank you. Because there's not a single member of the Legislative Assembly that could not have brought this up. This is Kenneth's first term. We already know his history with Alden. Not only was Kenneth a journalist, a reporter himself, but he has also worked with Alden, so he's quite aware of what the man is capable of. He was his political analyst, political assistant, whatever the position was. He worked in the PPM before Alden fired him. Before he could have his day in court, Alden said, oh, this looks bad. I need to fire him. Knowing that Kenneth Bryan, like all the rest of us, has a mortgage to pay. Kenneth Bryan has 2 young daughters and a wife to support. You think Alden cared about any of that? And if you all knew the real reason why Alden fired him, it wasn't so much about this court case, which in the end, what was the outcome? Nothing. Kenneth was trying to defend a woman who's being abused by another man. Alden didn't care about any of that. Talk about lack of moral fiber. Huh? What it was really about is that Kenneth was out there gaining traction in Georgetown Central politically, and Alden did not like that. And so he saw a very thinly veiled opportunity to say, oh, I can fire Kenneth under the guise of, oh, he's in court. Well, if that's the case, half of Cayman would be fired. You're not firing civil servants when they're in court. You allow them to go on suspension for years and keep their full salary in their jobs. And what kind of reputational damage are they doing to the country? None of that was under consideration. But there's so much that happens behind the scenes in the world of politics. And when I tell you that we're going to expose it all, it's like right now, poor Austin, he's getting a taste of what Kenneth has gotten. He's realizing the devil that he's in bed with that's going to screw him royally, and who is prepared in his own district of Prospect to support another candidate because Austin refused to join the ranks of PPM. He wants to remain as an independent person, although he's working with the current government. Remember that 8th ministry that was being created? Well, that was promised to Austin if he towed the line. Huh? But even Austin has reservations about towing the line. And so you speak up against someone like Alden, or when he says jump, you're not saying how high. You're going to have a problem. He's going to put you in his place. The power is strong, folks. I'm telling you. These people get in a position of power and they allow it to go to their heads. And it's all about the power, the position, the prestige. Not only did Alden lose, was it 3 or 4 ministers during the last election? And he still didn't get that the people were sending him a very clear message. He was able to form this coalition government with McKeeva Bush and the CDP. And that is why to this day, not a single member of this coalition government has taken a firm stance on the fact that a woman was beaten in public by the Speaker of the House. Alden, allegations himself of sometimes doing that sort of thing to women, but you will not speak out because you need to keep your government together. Come on, man. The people are not so stupid. They're really not that stupid. The ministers that you lost last time, or one of them, you got a nice cushy job elsewhere. The others are forging their own way, doing whatever. They've had to step away. Just a couple months ago, they resigned from the PPM because of the fact that the PPM has refused to take a stance against violence against women, especially when it's committed by someone who is working with you politically. So thank you guys so much. JD, Perla, Louie, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys here at 7 o'clock this evening. We're going to have a party this evening. This morning, unfortunately, was a little heavy, but this evening we're going to have a party. We're going to be celebrating our 3rd anniversary. So let's live it up, folks. Life is short. And here we are, despite all of the odds. Cayman Mall Road is just trucking down the Mall Road. It may now be paved, the super information highway. And we're moving at the speed of light. And we continue to pray for the courage to do what we know is the right thing. You don't have to like everything we do. But believe me, the day when it comes, when it is your turn to have your neck on the chopping block, and you need someone to call, you can call on us. We will be there for you. Regardless of what you have ever said about us, we will be there for you. And it just is what it is. So we'll see you guys here at 7 p.m. tonight. Have a wonderful Tuesday.
Miracle Brokers is back. That's right. We're fully reopened and back to work. Our agents are here to serve you with all of your packing and shipping needs. Need to move? Don't worry. Give us a call today. Collect a package, shipping around the world, or straight to Cayman? You got it. Give us a call on 949-5989. Collection by personalized appointment only, where our dedicated agents are on standby to personally assist you. Don't forget to wear your mask, maintain social distancing, and one person per appointment. Check us out at miraclebrokers.com today. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.